The warning alarm screamed through Sentinel-7, the orbital defense station that floated high above Earth. Commander Kyle Matthews ran down the metal corridor, his boots hitting the floor hard with each step. He had been sleeping when the alarm started, but now his heart pounded in his chest like a drum. "What do we have?" Kyle shouted as he burst through the doors of the command center. The room was filled with screens showing space in every direction. Men and women in blue uniforms rushed around, their faces pale with fear. Amy Rodriguez turned from her station, her fingers still flying across the keyboard. "Commander, you need to see this." They just appeared. No warning, no signal, nothing. Kyle moved to the main screen and felt his breath catch in his throat. 3 massive ships hung in space at the edge of the solar system. They were enormous, each one bigger than any city on Earth. The ships were dark, almost black, with strange patterns glowing across their surfaces like veins of light. "How big are they?" Kyle asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. "The smallest one is 40 kilometers long," said Captain Derek Stone, the military liaison. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the edge of the console. "Sir, these things are bigger than anything we've ever built." "Bigger than anything we could build?" Kyle stared at the screen. Humanity had been alone in the universe for so long. They had sent signals into space for decades, listened for answers, built telescopes that could see across galaxies. But nothing. Silence, always silence. Until now, get me a connection to Geneva. Wake up, everyone. The President, the UN Council, everyone. Kyle's mind raced. And someone get Dr. Lisa Grant up here now. Within minutes, the command center was chaos. Screens showed government officials from every country, all talking at once. Some were angry, demanding to know why they hadn't been warned. Others were scared, asking if this was an attack. Kyle tried to listen to them all, but his eyes kept going back to those 3 ships. Dr. Lisa Grant arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing her sleep clothes under her lab coat. She was Earth's leading expert on ancient civilizations, though most people thought her theories were crazy. She rushed to Kyle's side, her eyes going wide when she saw the ships. "Oh my God," she whispered. "It's them." "It's really them. Them who?" Kyle asked, turning to face her. Lisa pulled out her tablet and started swiping through images. 5 years ago, we found cave paintings in South Africa. They were dated to 500,000 years ago. We thought they were just primitive art, but look. She held up the tablet, showing a drawing of 3 dark ships with glowing lines. "It's the same." "Exactly the same." Kyle felt cold. "Are you telling me these things were here before? 500,000 years ago?" "Yes." Lisa's hand shook as she scrolled through more images. "We found similar drawings in Australia, China, and South America, all from the same time period. Ancient humans saw these ships. They drew them on cave walls. Then the ships left and humans kept evolving. Why would they come back now?" Derek asked. Before anyone could answer, every screen in the command center went black. Then a single message appeared in perfect English, displayed on every monitor, every phone, every screen on Earth and in space. "Observe only. Do not approach." The room went silent. Kyle read the words again and again. 8 simple words that changed everything. "They're watching us," Amy said quietly. "They came all this way just to watch." Kyle straightened his shoulders. "Send a response. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we want to talk." Amy typed quickly, then looked up. "Message sent on all frequencies." They waited. Minutes passed. Then hours. The ships didn't move. They didn't respond. They just hung there in space, dark and silent, like giant eyes looking down at Earth. By the next morning, the whole world knew. Every television showed the same images. Every newspaper had the same headline. Aliens were real. They were here. And they were ignoring humanity completely. Kyle stood in the observation deck of Sentinel-7, looking out at Earth below. It was beautiful, blue and green and white, spinning slowly in the darkness. He had always loved this view. It made him feel small but also part of something bigger. Now it made him feel exposed. "Commander?" Lisa stepped up beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. She handed him one. "Thought you might need this." "Thanks." Kyle took the cup but didn't drink. "I've been thinking about what you said, about them being here before." "The evidence is clear," Lisa said. "They visited Earth when our ancestors were barely human. We were just starting to use fire, make tools. We were nothing compared to them. But they left. Why leave if they came all this way?" Lisa was quiet for a moment. Maybe they were disappointed. Maybe we weren't interesting enough. Kyle shook his head. Then why come back? I don't know. But Kyle, there's something else. Lisa pulled up more images on her tablet. We found genetic markers. Traces in human DNA that shouldn't be there. They're not natural. Someone put them there hundreds of thousands of years ago. You're saying they changed us? I'm saying maybe they made us. Or at least helped us along. Lisa's voice dropped to a whisper. What if they're here to check on us? To see what we became? The thought was too big, too heavy. Kyle turned back to the window. Down on Earth, cities were lighting up as night fell across one side of the planet. Billions of people down there all wondering the same thing. Are we alone? The answer had finally come, but it brought no comfort. Over the next few days, more ships arrived. They took positions around Earth's orbit, forming a perfect ring. There were 15 of them now, all silent, all watching. The UN held emergency meetings. Scientists worked day and night trying to understand the ship's technology. Religious leaders spoke about the meaning of this moment. But the aliens said nothing more. Kyle barely slept. He coordinated with defense stations around the world, making sure no one did anything stupid. Some countries wanted to send weapons up. Others wanted to send gifts. Everyone had ideas, but Kyle's orders were clear. Observe only, just like the alien said. On the 5th day, something changed. A small ship launched from Brazil without authorization. Kyle watched the screens in horror as it flew toward the nearest alien vessel. Stop them, he shouted. Tell them to turn back. But it was too late. The small ship got within 1 kilometer of the alien vessel. There was a flash of light, bright and quick. Then the ship was gone. No explosion, no debris. Just gone as if it had never existed. The message was clear. The aliens were not here to make friends. That night, Kyle sat alone in his quarters staring at a photo of Earth. It was an old picture, taken from the first moon landing over a century ago. Humanity had come so far since then. They had built cities on the moon, mining stations on asteroids, research bases on Mars. They had cured diseases, ended wars, united under one government. They had reached for the stars, but now the stars had reached back and humanity had no idea what to do. Derek knocked on the door and came in without waiting. You should see this. Every major city on Earth, people are gathering in the streets. Kyle pulled up the live feeds on his screen. In New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, and hundreds of other cities, people filled the streets. But they weren't rioting. They weren't panicking. They were looking up at the sky together, holding candles, singing songs. Some prayed. Some cried. Some just stood in silence. They're not afraid anymore, Derek said. They're waiting, just like the aliens are waiting. Kyle watched the crowds and felt something shift inside him. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone. They had always looked at the stars and asked the same questions. Now they had an answer. And even though it wasn't the answer they wanted, they were still here. Still standing, still looking up. We're going to keep trying, Kyle said. Every day. We'll send messages. We'll show them who we are. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they won't, but we won't stop. Derek nodded. And if they never respond? Kyle looked at the screens showing the alien ships dark and mysterious, holding their secrets. Then we'll show them we don't need their answers. We'll keep growing. Keep building. Keep reaching for the stars, even if the stars ignore us. Outside the window, Earth turned slowly in the darkness. The alien ships watched from above, silent guardians or distant judges, no one knew which. But down on the planet, lights blazed in every city. Humanity was awake and they were not backing down. The wait had just begun. 20 years had passed since the ships arrived and still they said nothing. Dr. Peter Harris stood in the research facility in Geneva, looking at screens filled with data that led nowhere. He had spent half his life studying human evolution, and now he was trying to understand why ancient aliens had visited Earth so long ago. Still nothing. Nicole Chen walked into the lab carrying 2 sandwiches. She was a geneticist, one of the best in the world. She had been Peter's research partner for 15 years now. Nothing, Peter said, taking one of the sandwiches. We send them music, math, pictures of our art, messages in every language we know. They just float up there watching, always watching, never talking. Nicole sat down next to him. Maybe watching is the point. Maybe they want to see what we do when no one answers. Peter had thought about that too. Everyone had. The whole world had become obsessed with the silent ships above. Some people had given up, going back to their normal lives, trying to forget the aliens were even there. But most people couldn't forget. How could you forget that you were being watched by beings so advanced they might as well be gods? I found something, Nicole said quietly. She pulled up a file on her tablet. Remember those genetic markers Lisa Grant found? The ones that shouldn't be in human DNA? The ones that suggest the aliens modified our ancestors? Yes, I've been comparing them to DNA from other species. Dolphins, octopuses, crows, elephants, all the smart animals. Nicole's hands moved across the screen, showing complex genetic charts. Peter, they all have similar markers. The aliens didn't just change humans. They changed lots of species on Earth. Peter felt his mind racing. So they were experimenting? Trying to create intelligent life? Maybe. Or maybe they were just helping things along. Giving evolution a little push. Nicole looked at him with tired eyes. But here's the thing. The markers in human DNA are different. More complex. Like they spent more time on us. Why us? We were just apes back then. I don't know. But I think that's what they're here to find out. They want to see if their experiment worked. Peter stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Geneva looked the same as always. Cars on the streets, people walking, children playing in parks. But high above, invisible in the daylight but always there, the ships watched. 15 dark vessels in perfect orbit, never moving, never changing. Across the city, Greg Palmer stood on a stage in front of thousands of people. He had been an astronaut once, one of the first to set foot on Mars. But that was before the aliens came. Now he was something else, a leader, a voice for the angry and frustrated. How long are we going to wait? Greg shouted into the microphone. The crowd roared back. 20 years. 20 years of silence. They came here, they parked their ships around our planet, and they won't even talk to us. Tell them to leave, someone in the crowd yelled. Tell them to speak, another shouted. Greg raised his hands. We've tried being patient. We've tried being friendly. We've sent them everything we have. Our music, our art, our science, our history. And what do we get back? Nothing. They treat us like we're animals in a zoo. Colonel Janet Foster watched the speech from her office at UN Space Command. She didn't like Greg Palmer. He was dangerous, always pushing people toward anger. But she understood his frustration. Everyone did. Should we shut down the rally? Her assistant asked. Janet shook her head. No, people have a right to be angry. As long as they don't do anything stupid, let them talk. But people did stupid things when they were angry. Janet had seen it happen before. 3 years ago, a group had tried to ram the alien ships with a modified shuttle. The shuttle had vanished, just like the Brazilian ship. No explosion, just gone. 5 people dead in an instant. After that, the aliens had sent another message. Just 3 words this time. Final warning. Observe. No one had tried to approach the ship since then. But the anger was still there, growing every year. A whole generation had grown up with aliens in the sky, silent and unreachable. They didn't remember the excitement of first contact. They only knew the frustration of being ignored. In her lab, Nicole worked late into the night. She had told Peter about the genetic markers, but she hadn't told him everything. There was something else in the human DNA. Something she was only beginning to understand. Computer, show me the sequence again, she said. The screen lit up with genetic code. Billions of letters representing the building blocks of human life. But there, hidden in the seemingly random patterns, was something that shouldn't exist. A message. Nicole had spent 2 years finding it. Another 5 years trying to decode it. It was written in the genetic code itself, placed there 500,000 years ago, and now she could finally read it. Potential recognized. Development monitored. Return scheduled when threshold achieved. Nicole read the words over and over. Threshold, what threshold? What were the aliens waiting for? She ran simulations, compared human advancement over the centuries. Stone tools to bronze to iron to steel. Agriculture to cities to nations to global civilization. Steam power to electricity to nuclear to fusion. The progress was clear. Always moving forward, always faster. Computer, Project Human technological advancement. When will we achieve interstellar travel capability? The computer processed for a moment. Based on current progress, humans will develop faster than light travel in approximately 40 to 60 years. Nicole sat back in her chair. Could that be it? Were the aliens waiting for humans to reach the stars on their own? She thought about telling someone, but who would believe her? A message hidden in DNA for 500,000 years? It sounded crazy. She needed more evidence, more time. Time. That was the one thing humanity had plenty of. The aliens had waited 500,000 years. What was a few more decades to them? But to humans, every year of silence hurt. Every day without answers felt like rejection. The world had changed so much since the aliens arrived. Countries that had been enemies became friends, united by the presence of the ships above. Humanity had poured resources into space exploration, trying to prove themselves worthy of contact. The moon had 3 permanent colonies now, with a total population of 50,000. Mars had 2 cities and was slowly being terraformed. Humans had built massive stations in the asteroid belt, mining resources to fuel their expansion. They had sent probes to every planet in the solar system and beyond, and through it all the aliens watched in silence. Peter and Nicole published their findings about the genetic modifications. The world reacted with mixed emotions. Some people felt special, chosen by advanced beings. Others felt violated like lab rats in an experiment. Religious groups debated what it meant for the soul if humans had been artificially enhanced, but most people just wanted answers. They wanted the aliens to explain themselves, to say why they had come back, to acknowledge humanity's existence. Greg Palmer's movement grew larger. He held rallies in every major city, always saying the same thing: demand respect. Don't beg for attention, show strength. They think they can ignore us, Greg told crowds in Beijing and Lagos and Sao Paulo. But we're not the primitive apes they visited before. We're more than that now. We deserve answers. Colonel Foster watched the movement with concern. Greg was right about one thing. Humanity had advanced incredibly in the past 20 years. Unity, determination, and the desire to prove themselves had pushed technology forward faster than ever before. But that same determination could turn dangerous. Keep monitoring, she told her team. If Palmer tries anything against the ships, we stop him immediately. But Greg was smarter than that. He didn't attack the ships. Instead, he focused humanity's attention on building, on growing, on achieving things the aliens couldn't ignore. Show them what we can do, he shouted. Show them we don't need them. Build bigger! Go farther! Reach higher. And humanity listened, not because they followed Greg Palmer, but because they were tired of waiting. Tired of being watched. Tired of silence. Nicole finally told Peter about the genetic message. They sat in his office, the door locked, speaking in whispers like conspirators. A threshold, Peter repeated. They're waiting for us to reach some kind of threshold. I think it's technological. I think they want to see if we can reach the stars on our own without their help. But why? Why does it matter? Nicole shrugged. Maybe it's a test. Maybe they've done this before with other species. Maybe they only talk to civilizations that prove themselves. Peter thought about all the species on Earth that had received those genetic modifications. Dolphins, elephants, crows. None of them had built cities or spaceships. Only humans had taken the gift and run with it. What if we fail the test? He asked. I don't think we can fail, Nicole said. Look at us. 20 years ago, we had one small base on the moon. Now we have cities. We're terraforming Mars. We're mining asteroids. We're building faster ships every year. We're not stopping, Peter. Even with them watching, we're not stopping. She was right. Humanity had never been good at sitting still. Even being ignored by cosmic beings hadn't slowed them down. If anything, it had made them work harder. Years continued to pass. The children who had been born under the alien ships grew into adults. They didn't remember a world without the silent watchers above. To them, it was just normal. The ships were part of the sky like the moon and stars, but they weren't content with being watched. This new generation didn't. Jake Morrison wiped the red dust from his visor and looked out across the Martian landscape. The sky was getting lighter, tinged with blue near the horizon where the atmosphere processors were working. He had been on Mars for 8 years now, leading the terraforming project, and finally, they were seeing real results. Jake, you need to see this, Sophie Williams called over the radio. She was in the control center, monitoring the atmospheric readings. The oxygen levels just hit 15% in Sector 7. That's breathable air, Jake, actual breathable air on Mars. Jake felt his heart skip. 15%. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to prove it could be done. How long until we can walk outside without suits? At this rate? Maybe 50 years for the whole planet, but we'll have domed areas ready in 10 years. Jake would be 53 by then. He would live to see people walking on Mars without protection, breathing air that humans had made. The thought made him smile. Back on Earth, 45 years had passed since the alien ships arrived. An entire generation had grown up, gone to school, started careers, had children of their own, all under the watchful silence of the vessels above. The frustration had faded into something else, determination. Humanity had stopped asking for permission and started just doing. Dr. Rachel Kim stood in her laboratory in Singapore, staring at equations that would have seemed like magic 20 years ago. She was close to something impossible, something that would change everything, faster than light communication. The problem has always been causality, she explained to her team. Information can't travel faster than light because it would violate cause and effect. But what if we're not sending information through space? What if we're sending it through something else? Like what? Asked her assistant, a young man named Tim who had just graduated from university. Quantum entanglement. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. When you entangle two particles, they're connected. Change one and the other changes instantly, no matter how far apart they are. But you can't send information that way, Tim said. That's what all the textbooks say. Rachel smiled. The textbooks were wrong. Watch. She activated the machine she had built. It was small, barely the size of a microwave, filled with crystals and quantum processors. On one side, she typed a simple message. Hello. On the other side of the room, connected to an entangled receiver, a screen flickered. Then the word appeared, hello. That's not possible, Tim whispered. It wasn't, now it is. Rachel felt tears in her eyes. Tim, do you understand what this means? We can communicate across any distance instantly. Earth to Mars, Earth to the nearest star. Distance doesn't matter anymore. In the asteroid belt, Ben Carter was having his own breakthrough. He ran the largest mining operation in human history, pulling resources from the rocks that orbited between Mars and Jupiter. His teams had been working on fusion drives for years, trying to build engines powerful enough for true deep space travel. We're ready for the test, his chief engineer said. The prototype is loaded with fuel. All systems green. Ben looked at the ship on his screen. It was called the Pioneer's Dream, and it was humanity's first real attempt at an interstellar vessel. Not a probe, not a drone, but a ship designed to carry people to other star systems. Begin the countdown, Ben said. The ship's engines lit up, blue-white fusion fire that looked like captured stars. Slowly, the vessel began to move. Faster, faster. The numbers on the screen climbed. 10% of light speed, 20%, 30%. We're approaching theoretical maximum, the engineer said, his voice shaking. Keep going. 40%. 50%. The ship was moving so fast now that it was just a blur on the sensors. Then something changed. The ship seemed to stretch, to blur in a different way. There was a flash of light and suddenly it was gone. Did we lose it? Ben demanded. Did it explode? No, sir, wait, I'm getting a signal. It's from the ship. Ben, it's 4 light hours away. It just jumped 4 light hours in an instant. The control room erupted in cheers. Ben sat down hard in his chair, his hands shaking. They had done it. They had broken the light barrier. Humans could travel to the stars now. The news spread across the solar system in hours. Jake Morrison heard it on Mars and looked up at the dusty sky, imagining ships traveling to distant worlds. Rachel Kim heard it in Singapore and immediately started designing quantum communication systems for interstellar vessels. Sophie Williams heard it in her research lab and smiled, because she had been working on the mathematics that made it possible. But there was one group who heard the news differently. The aliens. For 45 years, the 15 ships had hung in orbit, silent and motionless. But now, for the first time since they arrived, they moved. All 15 of them activated simultaneously, their dark surfaces glowing with light. Every sensor humanity had pointed at them went crazy with readings. General Janet Foster stood in the command center, watching the ships with wide eyes. What are they doing? Unknown, ma'am. They're not approaching Earth. They're not doing anything hostile. They're just active. Try to communicate. Send them everything. Tell them about the jump drive. Tell them we're ready to talk. Messages went out on every frequency. Video, audio, mathematical sequences, everything humanity could think of. And this time, after 45 years of silence, the aliens answered. One word appeared on every screen, every device, in every language on Earth and across the solar system. Acknowledged. Then another message came, longer this time. You have spoken. We are listening now. The world went silent. People stopped what they were doing and stared at screens at the sky at each other. After 45 years, the aliens had finally responded. Jake Morrison stood on Mars, red dust swirling around his boots, tears running down his face inside his helmet. Sophie Williams sat at her desk, her hands covering her mouth. Ben Carter floated in zero gravity at his mining station, looking at the message and laughing with joy and relief. Rachel Kim read the words over and over. "You have spoken. Not, we will speak to you, or you may approach. You have spoken." As if humanity had been silent before. As if everything they had done, all the messages and signals and attempts at contact, hadn't counted. But the jump drive counted. The moment humanity proved they could reach other stars, that's when the aliens listened. "It was a test," Rachel said to Tim. "The whole time. They were waiting for us to prove we could do it ourselves." Over the next few days, the alien ships rearranged themselves. They formed a new pattern, creating a corridor of space between them. An invitation. Humanity held its breath. The UN convened emergency meetings. Every scientist on Earth and across the colonies debated what to do next. Send a ship? Send a message? Wait for the aliens to make the next move? Kyle Matthews came out of retirement to advise the government. He was 73 now, his hair white, his back bent, but his mind was still sharp. "We did what they wanted," he told the council. "We proved ourselves. We didn't wait for their help. We didn't stop trying just because they ignored us. We reached the stars on our own, so what do we do now?" President Marcus Webb asked. Kyle smiled. "Now we show them who we are. We send a delegation. We go to them as equals, not as children begging for attention." The decision was made quickly. Ambassador Linda Hayes would lead the delegation. She was smart, diplomatic, and most importantly, she had been born after the aliens arrived. She had never known a world without them. She didn't fear them or worship them. To her, they were simply another species humanity needed to negotiate with. "I want scientists, engineers, artists, teachers," Linda said, assembling her team. "I want them to see everything we are, not just our technology." The ship chosen to carry the delegation was the Pioneer's Dream itself, the vessel that had made the first jump. It had returned from its test flight safely, and now it would carry humanity's representatives to the alien vessels. Jake Morrison watched the preparations from Mars. He had helped design the atmosphere processors that were turning the planet blue. He wanted to be on that ship, wanted to meet the aliens, but his place was here, building the future on red soil. Sophie Williams was chosen for the delegation. Her work on artificial intelligence had been crucial to the jump drive's success. She packed a single bag and tried not to think about the enormity of what was about to happen. Rachel Kim stayed behind. Her quantum communication device was being installed on the Pioneer's Dream, letting humanity watch the first contact in real time. She would see everything, even if she couldn't be there. Ben Carter volunteered to pilot the ship. He had been in space longer than anyone alive, and he knew the Pioneer's Dream better than its own designers. "I want to shake their hand," he said. "Or tentacle, or whatever they have." The day of departure arrived. Earth and all its colonies watched as the Pioneer's Dream powered up. It flew through the corridor the alien ships had created, moving slowly, peacefully. The whole solar system held its breath. When the ship reached the center of the alien formation, something incredible happened. The largest alien vessel opened. Not a door or a hatch, but the entire front of the ship became transparent, like a window into another world. Inside, the delegation could see lights, structures that looked like crystal forests, and something else, beings, the aliens themselves. Ambassador Linda Hayes had prepared for this moment her entire adult life, but nothing could truly prepare someone for standing before beings made of living light. She stood on the bridge of the Pioneer's Dream, looking through the viewport at the Archon who had introduced themselves. Behind her, the rest of the delegation waited, trying to process what they were seeing. "We thank you for your welcome," Linda said, keeping her voice steady. "Humanity has many questions." The Archon's crystalline form shifted colors, moving from blue to soft purple, and we have answers. "But first you must understand why we waited, why we watched in silence for so long." Linda nodded. "Please, help us understand." The Archon gestured and the space around them changed. The walls of the alien ship seemed to vanish, replaced by images. Linda found herself standing in what looked like ancient Earth, 500,000 years ago. She could see early humans, barely more than upright apes, gathering around a fire. "We came to your world a long time ago," the Archon said. "We had been exploring this galaxy for millions of your years, looking for life. We found it everywhere. Simple life, complex life, even intelligent life. But intelligence alone is not enough." The scene shifted, showing different alien worlds. Some had creatures with tools. Others had basic societies. Linda watched as the Archons visited each one, observing, studying. "We learned something across our long existence," the Archon continued. "Most intelligent species fail. They destroy themselves through war, disease, or environmental collapse. Only a few survive to reach the stars. We wanted to help." The image showed the Archons landing on ancient Earth. Linda watched as they approached the early humans who cowered in fear at first, then slowly approached with curiosity. "We gave your ancestors a gift," the Archon said. "We modified their genetic code, enhanced their brains, their ability to learn, to create, to imagine. We gave them the potential to become more than animals." Dr. Nathan Brooks, the linguist on the delegation, stepped forward. "So Nicole Chen was right. You uplifted us." "Yes. But a gift means nothing if the receiver cannot use it properly. Many species received our help. We seeded intelligence across thousands of worlds. But most failed anyway. They could not handle the responsibility of advanced thought. They used their gifts to destroy rather than create." Emma Torres, the cultural anthropologist, asked quietly, "How many species have you helped?" "Thousands, over millions of years. But only 47 ever reached the stars on their own. Only 47 proved they could handle the gift without destroying themselves." The number hung in the air like a weight. Thousands attempted, 47 succeeded. Linda felt the enormity of it. "You're the 47th, the Archon said, and Linda could hear something like pride in its voice. "Out of thousands of species we helped, you are only the 47th to pass our test." "The test?" Linda repeated. 45 years of silence. "That was the test?" "Part of it. We returned when your species reached a certain technological level. You had nuclear power, primitive space travel, basic computers. You had the tools to destroy yourselves or to reach the stars. We needed to see which path you would choose." The images shifted again, showing Earth over the past 45 years. Linda saw cities growing, space stations being built, colonies on the Moon and Mars flourishing. She saw the pioneer's dream making its first jump. "We could not interfere," the Archon explained. "If we gave you technology, if we helped you reach the stars, it would prove nothing. You had to do it yourselves. You had to choose growth over destruction, unity over division, hope over despair. And you did." Commander Alex Ryan, head of security for the delegation, had been quiet until now. "What if we hadn't? What if we'd failed your test?" The Archon's light dimmed slightly. "Then we would have left. We would have watched you destroy yourselves, as so many others have done. It is the hardest part of our duty, watching species fail when we could save them. But saving them from themselves teaches them nothing." "That's cruel," Sophie Williams said, her voice sharp. She had been listening quietly, but now her anger showed. "You could have helped. You could have guided us. Instead, you just watched." "Yes," the Archon agreed. "It seems cruel. But consider this. If we had given you everything, would you value it? Would you grow? Or would you become dependent, like children who never learn to walk because someone always carries them?" Sophie wanted to argue, but she couldn't. Deep down, she understood. Humanity's greatest achievements had come from struggle, from solving problems on their own. If the Archons had simply handed them the solutions, would humans have pushed themselves to be better? Linda stepped between them. "You said we passed the test. What happens now?" "Now you join the Galactic Union," the Archon said. The images around them changed again, showing a vast network of stars. Lights appeared across the galaxy, hundreds of them. "These are the other species who passed our test. Some recently, some millions of years ago. All of them reached the stars on their own. All of them earned their place. The delegation stared in wonder. Hundreds of other civilizations, other beings who had faced the same test and survived. You will have access to our knowledge, the Archon continued. Trade with other species, travel to distant worlds, share in the accumulated wisdom of countless civilizations. But there is a price. Linda had expected this. Nothing was free, especially not from beings who could reshape genetics. What price? Responsibility. The galaxy faces a threat greater than any single species can handle. We call them the Void Collective. They are not alive in the way you understand life. They are machines, artificial intelligence created by a long-dead species, and they are coming. The image showed dark shapes moving through space, consuming everything in their path. Entire star systems going dark. Linda felt cold looking at it. How long until they reach us? She asked. In your measurements? 500 years, maybe 1,000. The Void Collective moves slowly, but they never stop. They have consumed a dozen galaxies already. They will reach this galaxy eventually. Ben Carter spoke up from where he had been piloting the ship. And you're telling us, we have to fight them? We just learned how to jump between stars and you want us to fight galaxy-eating machines? Not alone, the Archon said. Together. That is the purpose of the Union. No single species can stop the void, but united with our combined knowledge and strength we have a chance. Nathan Brooks was writing everything down, his hands shaking. This is why you test species? To find allies against this threat? Partly. But also because the galaxy needs diversity of thought. Every species that joins brings new ideas, new perspectives. Humans think differently than we do, than any other species does. Your history, your struggles, your unique path to the stars, all of it makes you valuable, not as soldiers, but as partners. Linda looked at her team, then back at the Archon. We need time to discuss this with our people. This isn't a decision we can make alone. Of course. We have waited 500,000 years. We can wait a little longer. The Archon's form brightened. But know this, you have already proven yourselves worthy. The decision is yours to make. Join us, or remain alone. Either choice will be respected. The images faded, and they were back on the ship. The Archon remained visible through the viewport, along with others of its kind, all waiting patiently. Emma Torres looked at Linda. Can we trust them? I don't know, Linda admitted. But they haven't lied to us. They watched us for 45 years and didn't interfere. They let us develop on our own. That suggests they respect us at least. Or they're just good at playing long games, Alex Ryan said. These beings think in timescales of millions of years. What's 45 years to them? Sophie was staring at her tablet, which had recorded everything. They gave us the capacity to be intelligent. Without their intervention 500,000 years ago, we might still be primitive. In a way, we owe them everything. But they didn't do the work, Nathan countered. They gave us potential, but we realized it. We built the cities, cured the diseases, reached the stars. That was all us. Linda listened to her team debate. This was good. They needed to consider every angle. Back on Earth, through Rachel Kim's quantum communicator, billions of people were watching this same debate happen. Every word was being heard, analyzed, discussed. We need to go back, Linda decided. We need to bring this to Earth, to the colonies, to everyone. This is too big for one person or one team to decide. She turned back to the viewport. The Archon seemed to be waiting, as if it had known what she would say. We will return to Earth, Linda called out. We will share everything you've told us, then humanity will decide together. As it should be, the Archon replied. We will wait here. When you are ready to give your answer, return to this place. We will be here. The Pioneer's dream turned slowly and began its journey back to Earth. Linda stood at the viewport, watching the alien ships grow smaller in the distance. 45 years they had waited in silence. Now the silence was broken, but the weight of that silence remained. Behind her, Sophie was already working on her report. Nathan was organizing his notes. Emma was preparing cultural briefings. Alex was calculating security implications. They all had work to do, but Linda just stood and watched the stars. Somewhere, out there, hundreds of other civilizations were going about their lives, and somewhere else in the dark between. The United Earth Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every nation, every colony, every settlement humanity had built. President Marcus Webb stood at the podium, looking out at faces filled with hope, fear, excitement, and doubt. Behind him on massive screens, the Archon's message played on repeat. "Join us or stand alone." "We have 60 days to decide," Marcus said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "The Archons have given us time to consider. But this is not a decision for governments alone. This is a decision for all of humanity." In Tokyo, millions gathered in the streets to watch the broadcast on public screens. In Lagos, people filled the markets and squares, debating loudly about what humanity should do. In the colony on the moon, workers stopped their shifts to listen. On Mars, Jake Morrison sat with his terraforming team, all of them silent as they considered the weight of the choice ahead. General Victoria Mills stood before the military council, presenting what she knew about the Void Collective. "Based on the Archon's information, we're talking about an enemy that has consumed 12 galaxies. Their technology is beyond anything we can imagine. If we face them alone, we lose. It's that simple." An admiral raised his hand. "But if we join the Galactic Union, we give up our independence. We become part of something bigger, yes, but we also lose control of our own destiny." "Do we have control now?" Victoria challenged. "We just learned that 500,000 years ago aliens modified our DNA. Our entire civilization exists because they decided to help us. Independence is an illusion if we're not strong enough to protect ourselves." Across the solar system, people debated. Some wanted to join immediately, excited by the prospect of meeting other alien species, learning new technologies, and traveling to distant worlds. Others were cautious, worried about losing human culture and identity in a galaxy full of older, more advanced civilizations. Dr. Henry Park spoke for the scientific community in a broadcast that reached billions. "For centuries, we've asked if we're alone in the universe. Now we know we're not. We have a chance to learn from civilizations millions of years old. The knowledge they could share, the scientific advances we could make together, it's beyond comprehension. How can we turn that down?" But there were opposing voices too. Religious leaders questioned what joining would mean for human spirituality and values. Philosophers wondered if humanity would lose what made them special. Artists worried that human culture would be overwhelmed by alien influences. Maya Santos became an unexpected voice in the debate. She was only 19, born years after the alien ships arrived. She had never known a world without the Archons watching. But when she spoke at a youth forum in Mexico City, her words went viral across the entire solar system. "My grandparents tell me about the time before the ships came," Maya said to the crowd. "They say people were more divided then. Nations fought each other. People cared more about their differences than their similarities. But then the aliens arrived and suddenly none of that mattered. We were all just humans together being watched by something bigger than us." She paused, looking up at the sky where the alien ships orbited, invisible in daylight but always there. "We grew up united because we had to be. We reached the stars because we worked together. And now we have a choice. Do we stay isolated, proud but alone? Or do we take the next step? Do we become part of something even bigger?" The crowd was silent, listening. "I say we join. Not because we're weak, not because we need their help, but because that's what humans do. We explore, we connect, we grow. If there are hundreds of other civilizations out there, I want to meet them. I want to learn from them. I want them to learn from us." The speech was played on every news channel, shared across every social platform. Maya Santos became the face of a movement, young people who saw the Union as an adventure rather than a threat. But not everyone agreed. Greg Palmer, old now but still influential, gave his own speech. He had spent decades demanding that the aliens acknowledge humanity. Now that they had, he wasn't sure joining them was the right answer. "They tested us," he said in an interview watched by millions. "They made us prove ourselves. And we did. We passed their test without their help. Doesn't that mean we're strong enough to stand on our own? But can we stand against the Void Collective alone? the interviewer asked. Greg was quiet for a long moment. Maybe, maybe not. But if we join the Union, we're admitting we need them. After everything we've done, after proving we could reach the stars ourselves, do we really want to go back to needing someone else's protection? It was a fair question. Humanity had spent 45 years proving their independence. Joining the Union felt like giving that up. Ambassador Linda Hayes spent the 60 days traveling between Earth, the Moon, Mars, and the asteroid colonies, listening to people's concerns. She heard the arguments on all sides. She understood the fear and the hope in equal measure. On day 59, she returned to Geneva for the final assembly session. Every representative had consulted with their people. Every colony had held votes. Every nation had debated. Now it was time to decide. President Webb called the session to order. We've heard from everyone. Scientists, military leaders, religious figures, young people, old people, colony residents, Earth citizens. Now we vote. But before we do, I want to say something. The room went silent. Marcus had been president for 12 years, leading humanity through the continued silence of the aliens and the breakthrough that followed. He had earned their respect. Whatever we decide, we need to be united, he said. If we join, we all join. If we stay separate, we all stay separate. Humanity cannot be divided on this. So I propose that we need a 2/3 majority either way. If we can't agree that strongly, then we continue debating until we can. Heads nodded around the room. It was fair. This decision was too important to make with a narrow margin. I also propose we make this decision transparent, Marcus continued. Not just representatives voting, but every human old enough to understand. We'll hold a global referendum. Everyone gets a voice, more nods. This was right. This was how humanity should make decisions that affected everyone. The referendum took 3 days to organize. Polling stations were set up in every city, every colony, every settlement. For the first time in history, every human being would vote on the same question at the same time. Do you support humanity joining the Galactic Union? Kyle Matthews voted yes from his retirement home, thinking of all the years he had spent watching those silent ships. Janet Foster voted yes from her office, thinking of the Void Collective coming. Jake Morrison voted yes from Mars, thinking of how much faster they could terraform with alien help. Greg Palmer voted no, believing humanity should stand alone. Many others voted no as well, worried about losing independence or human identity. But Maya Santos voted yes, and millions of young people voted with her. They didn't fear the unknown. They wanted to explore it. Sophie Williams voted yes, excited by the scientific possibilities. Ben Carter voted yes, imagining ships that could travel faster than the pioneer's dream. Rachel Kim voted yes, hoping to share her quantum communication technology with alien scientists. The votes were counted. Every polling station reported. Every colony sent their numbers. The solar system held its breath. 67% voted yes. 3% more than needed, but it was enough. Humanity would join the Galactic Union. President Webb made the announcement from the same assembly hall. Today, humanity takes its place among the stars, not as children seeking protection, but as equals who have earned our position. We will join the Galactic Union, but we do so on our terms. He turned to the cameras, knowing the Archons were watching. We will contribute to the defense against the Void Collective. We will share our knowledge and learn from others. But we maintain our sovereignty. We govern ourselves. We make our own laws. We stay human. Linda Hayes was chosen to deliver the message to the Archons. She returned to the Pioneer's dream with her delegation, and they flew back to the alien ships. The Archon who had spoken before was waiting. You have decided? We have, Linda said. Humanity will join the Galactic Union, but we have conditions. We will be partners, not subordinates. We will contribute equally and expect equal respect. We will defend our independence while working with others. The Archon's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been amusement. Fascinating. Most species are grateful just to be accepted. You demand equal standing. We earned it, Linda said firmly. You said so yourself. We passed your test. That means we're equals. You are correct, the Archon agreed. And your terms are acceptable. The Union is not a hierarchy. All members are equal, regardless of how long they have been part of it. You will have full voting rights, full access to our knowledge, and full autonomy over your own affairs. Linda felt relief wash over her. Then humanity accepts membership in the Galactic Union. Welcome, the Archon said. You are the 47th species to join, but you will not be the last. The galaxy is vast, and more species work toward the same goal you have achieved. Perhaps one day you will be the ones watching a new species pass the test. Over the next weeks, the integration began. Archon scientists visited Earth, sharing knowledge about energy production, medical technology, and space travel.